Café Joyeux really started with Café Joyeux, which was a small coffee shop and roastery that existed, I think, around 2014, 15, for around 6 years, run by a master roaster by the name of Joël. That place unfortunately had to shut down, but then he teamed up with my current partner and the co-founder of the company, Mike Shore, to basically start a spiritual successor to Café Joyeux. Café Joyeux was kind of Rockland's introduction to specialty coffee, and then we continued to carry the torch. He passed on the torch to us. And then later down the line, unfortunately, Joël had to exit the business due to health concerns, and that wasn't too long before I joined on. I started out as just a simple barista, I was Mike's first employee. But then about not even 6 months after I really started working here full time, the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, decides to hit. And Mike is, at the time, the only owner, the only one with authority, responsibility here. He's stuck dealing with it himself. I said, okay, no, you're clearly trying to manage a whole business, trying to keep it alive in the middle of all this. That's too much. Let me take on some more responsibility. And so from there, I started helping out more in the back end of things, in the administration side of things. I was also very interested to learn about business. Really, I started working here with the intention of learning what small business was all about, and eventually that evolved into a partnership. So
yeah, I mean, like, what a platform to give yourself with such a locally owned and run and popular business as well. So where did this interest in business and coffee come from? Because you have quite the knowledge.
Yeah, well, the interest in coffee actually started as well for me with Café Joyeux. When I was 15, 14, I used to love hanging out there with my friends. And that's really where this conception of the cafe as a communal space first emerged in my mind. Like, it was about the coffee for sure. I loved the coffee. That was where I learned the amount of complexity that there exists in the coffee world. But it's really those memories I have with my friends, hanging out at Café Joyeux for hours, just chatting, reading, doing what friends do.
A little bit like any craft out there, whether it be beer or gin or whiskey, coffee has its own uniqueness and complexity to it. What really drew you into all of that? Because you kind of think of a cup of coffee for a lot of people as just a cup of Tim's, right? Whereas there is far more below that surface.
Well, for me, I've always had a little bit of interest in specialty cuisine in general. Kind of dabbled in it at home, making meals here and there. But then coffee, I found, had all of the potential complexity of that, and also keeps you caffeinated.
You mentioned getting involved with the business in 2019.
Yes.
6 months later, the pandemic hit, and you took the very bold decision to get more involved with the business as a way of aiding Mike, but as well as trying to find out more about running and working in a local business too. Mm-hmm. How has the pandemic affected Café Joyeux? Because the service industry, one of those industries the hardest hit during the pandemic.
So for us, obviously it hit us hardest in the beginning. I think it was around end March that we had to close down the shop. And as I said, a cafe is a very communal space, right? So that was a hard hit for us. That was it was a big part of what appeals about our business was the communal aspect, and that was gone suddenly. But we are also a roastery in addition to a cafe. So we were able to continue roasting and continue providing coffee through delivery and curbside pickup. And so we continued doing that, and that is really how we survived. That and the loyalty of our patrons. We have a small but loyal client base who continually buys our roasted coffee from us for use at home. And obviously everybody was stuck at home during the pandemic, so really upping your coffee game at home was a big thing that it kind of took the world by storm at that time. But just to say, it's that clientele who kept ordering from us throughout the period that we were closed, despite the fact that they never saw our faces. And yeah, that's really how we made it through in the beginning. We were able to open back up. We weren't able to open up the dining area later on, I think, closer to Christmas time, for example, for a little while there. But we were able to do takeout, and it was amazing how many people just immediately were back. As if nothing ever happened. They were back here with business like usual,
That sense of community is probably one of Clarence-Rockland's strongest aspects. I mean,
Absolutely.
the number of people that come out to support locally owned businesses, whether it be any of the restaurants along Laurier to all the businesses further afield, you go to Hammond, to Bourget, and even the industrial area here in Clarence-Rockland. We're sat here today, and one of the main reasons we've come to speak to you is it's the kind of eve of the Christmas parade of lights
yes.
here in Clarence-Rockland. And
These sorts of events are crucial. They really are. Because at this time when everybody's used to sitting at home and only going out for takeout and really not getting as involved in the community as they used to, a big event to bring people together, to bring them onto Main Street especially, where most of the economic action in this town is currently happening, is it's going to be essentially what Rockland needs to jumpstart the local economy again, I think.
And how much did Café Joyeux kind of miss that? How much have you guys missed that over the last 12 to 24 months where people just haven't been loitering around, let's say, and just experiencing Main Street, as you said yourself?
I will say that while we were definitely affected and we did see a reduction in revenue when it comes to drink sales, for example, I can't complain too much because we have, again, as I said, a really loyal and truly caring clientele who have patronized us pretty much since this whole thing started. You know, there was, they helped us during the first 3 months and they never stopped. They never stopped.
But how excited are you for Sunday, seeing this number of people back
Well,
out?
this is it. I am very excited for that because, as I said, drink sales haven't been as high since the pandemic started. Until recently, we're starting to see 2019 numbers again, and not only see it on the revenue reports, but actually see it in the store. You know, since the seating restrictions have been lifted up, we've been able to get all the seating back. More people are coming in, enjoying themselves. It's great. I'm very excited.
And you mentioned there, just to expand on that as well, that one of the things that attracted you to coffee and coffee shops was when you were a teenager, and that sort of community gathering space, that watering hole. How good is it to start seeing these seats out and seeing people coming back in?
When I started at this place, that was what I wanted to create. I wanted to create that experience that I had with my friends at Café Joyeux in 2015. And then boom, the pandemic hits, and I don't get that opportunity anymore. I've done numerous other great things while I'm here, but now is the time that I'm finally starting to see that community atmosphere come back to Café Joyeux, and I couldn't be happier. This is exactly what I signed up for.
And when you talk about the community involvement there, yourself, Mike, and the Café Joyeux as an entity have a bit of a reputation and a history of being able to help out and support local businesses and organizations, from the Valoris Foundation to the Fight for Light fundraiser that came through here a couple of months ago now, as well as obviously far beyond those two examples. Why is it so important to you and Mike to be able to support those kind of businesses and organizations locally?
Well, because it's just an extension of our mission. I said that I was here to create a sense of community with this establishment, with Café Joyeux, and what we're doing here in supporting these initiatives is taking that mission outside of the physical limits of the cafe and really giving back to the community. After everything they've given us throughout the pandemic, it's really the least we can do. Initiatives like Valoris help the disenfranchised throughout Rockland and Prescott Russell really get the help they need, and that's why we're trying to build a stronger community in that way. As well as part of a concerted effort moving into 2022 to really give back to this community, we've recently run 3 separate fundraisers, one for our lovely local hockey team, the Rockland Nationals, and also the Rockland Scouts as well approached us for that. And then finally, we're working right now to finish up a fundraiser with the local elementary school, Café Joyeux, as well.
And to build a stronger community, one of the greatest ways of doing it is obviously retaining goods and services within the local economy as well. The recent Buy Local campaign has been a great success that had obviously a big emphasis on that. How important is it to you to be able to sort of retain services within here, sort of source things from local providers and buyers, like not just in terms of just in Clarence-Rockland, but a little bit further afield as well as one needs to, but also supplying other businesses, which is a big element of what you guys do as a roastery.
Yes, we are a roastery as well. And so it's crucially important, and one of our biggest values here is to support local. Almost everything we have here minus the coffee equipment, because unfortunately there's no local suppliers for that quite yet. But everything we have goes no further than Ottawa. We get all of our pastries made locally, whether it be strawberry blonde down in Ottawa or yummy cookies as well down in Ottawa, or the Black Walnut Bakery in Cumberland are great friends of ours. We try our best to find local producers and build them up alongside ourselves. It's the same thing with the coffee, really. We're trying to get our coffee into as many places as we can locally. Recently, we started selling at the local independent, but that's really only step one, phase one of this kind of plan of eventually, hopefully, spreading our coffee and by extension, everything coffee has to offer, the specialty coffee industry, really introducing Prescott Russell at large to it by selling our coffee in many other local establishments.
And what are some of the goals then for Café Joyeux? You touched on them a little bit there, but whether it be next year or in the future, give me the moon and then work backwards. What do you want to see? What do you hope to get done?
Well, insofar as the coffee industry goes, the moon would be, we would like to supply all of Rockland's coffee at every establishment when it comes, like from the smallest cafes and restaurants to big box stores. We would like to either get our coffee in the bags, whole bean format, into as many stores as possible, or ideally, actually, what we'd really like to expand on is getting it behind bars, getting people to taste our coffee, because that's really what it's all about. It's about the experience of tasting the coffee.
And finally, Adlan, just thank you so much for your time. Been great to get to know a little bit more about yourself, Mike, the business, and great to hear that the community has been able to support you during such a trying time that we've had over the last 18 to 24 months, and that there are big hopes, goals, and aspirations going forward. But casting our eyes to the very, very near future, Christmas Parade of Lights, can you just remind the people watching right now where you're located and what kind of things you have on offer for them that day?
Well, we are located at 1600 Laurier Street, right next to La Violette Flowers, not too far from Giant Tiger. We've got all of the Christmas drinks you need. The peppermint lattes and the gingerbread lattes abound. We can even make them chocolatier if you like. And we will be here until 5:30 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, ready to serve the community as always.